In psychology, you have to show knowledge, you have to show application, you have to show evaluation. But did you know that you can be asked to write comparatively? Before you all panic, that's what I'm here to take you through today. Welcome back to Galbraith Does Psych. This is another video in our series, Skills for Psychology. Without further ado then, question types might be things like, explain one similarity or one difference between whatever it might be. Keywords to look out for in the exam. Distinguish. Yeah, so explain what the difference is between two things. Things like overlaps with. Now this you tend to see on the approaches topic. So for example, explain one way that social learning theory overlaps with the cognitive approach to psychology. Yeah, so you talk about, the role of thinking and information processing between stimulus and response there, probably. But more often than not, you'll see explain one similarity or difference, or you'll actually see the command word compare. Okay, so I'm going to take you through just one way of dealing with this sort of thing, okay? So how to write comparatively. So in a normal evaluation paragraph, I'd be starting with a clear point to signpost to the examiner what I'm about to be writing about, to help them mark it as evaluation. And my advice is going to be the same here. Start with a clear signpost to the examiner so they know they are marking comparison work here, okay? But you're going to start with a theme as opposed to a point possibly. Yeah. So don't give too much away, again, like with my advice with evaluation, but what is the theme you're going to compare them on? So going back to that social learning theory and cognitive example, you might explain to the examiner or just signpost to the examiner that you're going to be talking about the fact that they both rely on information processing, for example. You're then going to, hopefully sounds fairly straightforward, but you're then going to explain what thing A does or says about your point. And you're then going to explain what thing B does or says or whatever about the theme that you've chosen. But in the middle of the two explain points, you need to use comparative language. So that's things like similarly, whereas, on the other hand, in contrast. Yeah, think back to your English lessons lower down the school. For example, let's say the question was explain one difference between or distinguish between semantic and procedural memory. Yeah, so going right in at paper one, we might answer like this. One difference between, so again, clear signposting there to the examiner that I'm going to be talking about a comparison. So one difference between semantic and procedural memory is their availability for conscious inspection. I haven't blurted it all out at once there and answered the question fully. I've just said, look, examiner, this is what I'm going to be talking about. The extent to which they're available for conscious inspection. So the amount I can actually talk about them or whether I can talk about them. Yeah. So that's my signposting, my theme. I now need to explain where semantic stands on this. So, for example, we are able to verbalise facts we know. That's your semantic. Yeah. I need some comparative language, so there, in contrast. Yeah, and I now need to explain thing B, so explain where procedural memory stands on this. So in contrast, we are unable to verbalise the skill of riding a bike, and I've picked an example of a procedural memory to help me explain the point. So nice and straightforward, it's only going to be worth a couple of marks at that sort of level. Sometimes you might want to extend it, make it a little bit bigger if it's maybe 3 or 4 marks, or it's going to be part of an essay possibly. Yeah, so you don't always necessarily want to do this. But my advice would be, like I said, for those bigger kind of questions, so it's a bit more like an evaluation or a bit more like a paragraph then, okay? So we're going to arrive at some kind of judgment on which thing is better or more effective or more appropriate or less ethical or whatever it might be, yeah? Okay. Let's take an example. So going back to approaches, let's say that we were writing a comparison paragraph on the behaviourist and the biological approaches. Let's say, I don't know, maybe the question might be, briefly compare the behaviourist approach with an alternative approach, 3 marks. Yeah, just as a hypothetical question. So here we go, where's my theme? Well, the similarity is their application to therapy. Yeah, I'm not saying what they do at this point, I'm just saying this is what I'm going to talk about in this paragraph. I now need to explain thing A. So thing A here is the behaviourist approach. So phobias can be treated with systematic desensitization, which is based on counter-conditioning. We know that's a behaviourist principle. Yeah. Similarly, there's my comparative language. Similarly, OCD is often treated with SSRIs, yeah? Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Yeah, remember that those are drugs which target serotonin levels in the synapse, and they increase serotonin to improve thinking and improve mood. Anyway, there's thing A, there's thing B. And what I've done here, just to draw this together, is a bit more of a discussion, a bit more evaluation, a bit more like a paragraph to answer a 3-marker. Yeah, so therefore, this is a shared strength, as both approaches have positive real-world implications. Sometimes you might feel, again, if it's a bigger question, maybe if this were 4 marks, or if this formed part of an essay, so for example, outline the behaviourist approach, compare the behaviourist approach with the biological approach, 16 marks, yeah, we might want to extend this a bit more. So notice in that hypothetical question there, the command word was compare, not evaluate. Yeah. So how are we going to extend this? Well, in a similar way to how I would extend evaluation, we might then have a however at the end of our kind of mini conclusion that we've got there. So we've said it is a shared strength because they're both useful, but I wonder which one's better. Well, let's have a think about it. You could go many different ways, but I've chosen here to write about how drug therapies tend to come with side effects, which mean that actually patients don't often want to take them. And if they don't take them, they can't be effective. Yeah, so I finished that off by saying, on balance, it might be argued that behaviourist approaches have better real-world application. So I've linked back to my theme that I started with. The theme was application. I've said thing A does this, thing B does this. I've concluded. And I've developed it by offering a little bit more of a discussion, a little bit more of a conclusion. Yeah, it is a shared strength. They're both good at it, but one of them is better. And if you've seen my evaluating a theory or an explanation video, then this may look familiar. It doesn't matter that it says forensic. Yeah, you can structure your learning, you can structure your revision around this for any topic. Yeah, so some of the things that I like to think about when I'm evaluating a theory, but you could do this with therapies, I've got a video on that as well, are things like, is it scientific? Is there research support? Does it have applications? You know, all of that sort of thing that you can see on the screen there. And by structuring your revision and your learning in this way, it makes it really, really simple to come back and do comparison. Yeah. So I've got forensic on the screen there, but like I said, it could be for any topic. Let's stick with forensic for a second though. I could use this, if I completed it, I could use this to answer a question, outline and evaluate 2 explanations for offending. Fine, that's all there. But I have also, by doing it this way, prepared for a question like outline and compare 2 explanations for offending. Because I can go along the grid and I can say, oh, okay, maybe I've picked modern biological and I've picked cognitive. And I could look at them and I could go, oh, yes, okay, one is more scientific than the other. Or one has greater applications than the other. So it's really helpful for comparison as well, to be thinking about these sorts of themes. Okay, we've come to the end of this video. I do hope you found it useful. Please pop a comment below. Let me know how you're getting on with this sort of thing. How do you compare? How do you find this? Some people tell me that comparison is easier than evaluation. Some people prefer evaluation to comparison. What do you think? Let me know. Ask me a question. Thanks very much, guys. See you in another video. All the best. Bish bash bosh.